Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from Africa. Welcome, and also the rest of the world. I really can't see everybody in the room, but welcome to this session. It's good to have you. Okay, great. Welcome from Munich. Yes, please. Let's start doing that. Let's start introducing ourselves. Let's start putting some text in the chat. Let's start introducing ourselves, meeting ourselves. But yeah, really great to have everyone here. My name is Adeyemi Adelekon. Um, I will introduce myself very quickly, and then I will let the um, our panelists today to also introduce themselves. But welcome to the Catalyst Now Academic Hub meeting. Today we'll be looking at this very interesting idea of incubation of social entrepreneurship in African universities. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I think you are in for a very interesting session. So yes, welcome to everybody again. So just a brief introduction about myself. So I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the moment at the Tyndall Center for Climate Change Research at the University of Manchester, based in the UK here. But I'm a Nigerian, as you probably would have be able to tell from my name. But yes, currently based here in the UK. Did my PhD in Middlesex University in London, looking at the topic of social entrepreneurship within the circular economy in Nigeria. Currently lead the African Social Enterprise Workshop called ASU, where I'll talk a bit more about some of our upcoming programs later towards the end, but African Social Enterprise Workshop is a technical support platform, and we're more focused on this idea of how can we sustain the impact that we create on the African continent, and as part of that training platform that I direct, we also organize the annual Sustaining Impact Summit, again, which is looking at this idea of how do we sustain impact on the continent. And a lot of you that is probably on the call today are probably part of our partners. Some of you might be, some of you might not be, but we also have Catalyst Now that is actually convening this session today, is one of our good partners, and hence the reason why we are here as ASU representing and also moderating this session. So I also, I'm a part of a board. I actually wanted to highlight this as part of my introduction. I'm a part of the board member for a journal called the Journal for Tropical Futures. And that journal is looking to promote sustainable business practices, or sustainable and responsible approaches to business practices, and is looking for submissions, particularly from the African continent as well. So if any one of you is on the call, since this is an academic forum, I just thought it would be nice for me to introduce that. So if any of you is on the call and would love to submit to that journal, please do check it out. It's called the Journal of Tropical Futures, and I'm part of the editorial board member for that. So I'll be looking forward to receiving your submissions to that particular journal. Apart from that, I'm also an early stage venture advisor interested in advising entrepreneurs both in Africa and also here in the UK on anything sustainability related. So I have my hands in a couple of things there. So I think I've got I've got some. I could talk about the panelists, two interesting, well-experienced panelists today, but I think it's much better to bring them on themselves, if they don't mind. William and Alexander, for you to briefly talk about yourself as well. So I will go first with Professor Alexander Noah from the University of Cape Coast. Quick introduction of yourself, and then I'll move on to Dr. Williams.
Yeah, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Standing on the protocol of Ade. My name is Alexander Nue, also from Ghana. Currently, I teach at the University of Cape Coast. We just had the release from the Times World Ranking, still #1 in Ghana and West Africa, among the 11th in Africa. I teach, work, research, consult within the agribusiness, international development, social entrepreneurship space. My PhD is in social entrepreneurship. My time, I think I was among the pioneers in the world, the continent. I looked at that context of strategy, exit strategy, and the sustainability within the African agribusiness spaces. Yeah, so that's a bit about me. I work across mentoring, coaching. Also, part of my vision is to see to it that we have a lot of these hubs that can churn out change makers across the world and especially on the continent. Maybe with time, I will talk a bit about myself in addition, but this is a brief introduction I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very lovely to have you on the call again, Dr. Alex, Professor Alex, permit me. All right, so I'll bring in Dr. William Murithi.
Right. Thank you so much, Adeyemi. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I think this is everywhere. I can see people from Uganda, from all over the world joining in. Currently in Nairobi, Kenya. My background is in entrepreneurship and strategy, as well as family business. My PhD is looking at the intersection of strategic behaviors and family business and non-family business and their contribution to regional development. However, having said that, I have done extensive work on social entrepreneurship and as well faith-based social enterprise, where currently a postdoc as well at the Sisters Blended Value Project, which is in phase 3, supported by Conrad N. Hilton, looking at supporting faith-based social enterprise run by Catholic sisters. I also director of Strathmore University nonprofit social enterprise and philanthropy, where we are working with the nonprofit sector as well as the social enterprises and philanthropists to look at how they intersect to support initiatives that are blended economic and social. I also am a business coach with startups as well as a management consultant. So I do wear a bit of hats there, but happy to be here and share the experience we have at Strathmore, having spent a bit of time as well in Ghana, Aseshi, as well as the UK in DMU. Would want to build on that experience to share my thoughts today. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So there you are. So I think because we don't have a lot of time, so I would love to get into the session. I think it's a very interesting topic, as I said from the start, incubation of social entrepreneurship in African universities. I was billed to also be one of the panelists, but of course I had to step in when Komi nicely asked me to moderate. So very excited to do this because I have my views on that topic, in terms of social entrepreneurship itself. What are we incubating? How are we incubating them? What are the stories of how this has been done in different African countries, and sort of how should we be doing them, or how could we do them, or even do them better? But I'm glad I've got these two experts who are experienced and doing this in their respective universities to be able to share today on it. So I have got a couple of questions, and please, if you are in the chat and you're just joining us, welcome to the Catalyst Now Africa Academic Hub, I believe it's called, session today. And please introduce yourself in the chat. You can see that is already going on, and yes, please keep that going. And what we'll also try to do at some point is we'll try to bring you into the conversation as well, so that we can hear from your perspective as well. Sorry for the it looks like we're a little bit gender biased today because just all males, but we'll try and bring the female in the room into the session as well at some point. So yes, just get ready for that. So incubation of social entrepreneurship in Africa. So I've got a couple of questions. So I will try to bring in first both of my panelists today. So let us start with the obvious question, which is what does social enterprise incubation mean in the context of African universities itself? And how do you think it's different from traditional enterprise incubation models? So I will start with, William, you can go first this time.
All right. Generally speaking, and I interact a little bit with people in the social enterprise, and I met someone who made a very bold statement, which still sticks with me to date. Said every business should be a social enterprise. Yeah, I will allow that to sink in a bit. However, we talk about social enterprises as businesses that go beyond just economic value to look at the social impact they do create within the community. And by extension as well, I work with faith-based organizations, which is now looking at also, the faith aspect of what the sisters do. So social enterprise incubation then looks at businesses that are trying to use the hybrid model, try to be sustainable as well as create as much impact within the community. So any profits or surplus they make is reinvested back into growing their impact within the community. So what does that incubation look like? Traditionally, of course, a lot of hubs have looked into the for-profit because it's driven by profit and making money, return on investment. And a lot of it, of course, is driven by the venture capitalists and angel investors who are focusing on looking at how can they get a return. Now, things have changed and platforms have changed. And we've looked at people, so venture capitalists who are coming in and says, we want to look at impact investing. So the drive is to see, are we going as well to have impact of what we are getting our money to do? And they're keen to look at the social aspect, which is the people, livelihoods getting better, jobs being created as an outcome. And I think this has taken quite a bit of time to look at, particularly with incubation, right? Mm-hmm. So we are speaking about incubators that don't really understand. However, just to make it real, that a lot of businesses, and I've seen a trend of even startups traditionally fail because, again, they fail to, or the investors fail to reckon that businesses in Africa are actually social businesses because most of them are solving social issues. Mm-hmm. And I would like to stop there so that I can invite my colleague to come and share. But most businesses are actually addressing social issues in Africa.
Well, yes, okay. That's how you want to start, William. That's interesting. That's how you want to start. Okay, very disruptive. That's great. Okay, let's bring in Professor Alex. Professor Alex, what do you want to say about that? Like, what does social entrepreneurship incubation mean in the African context?
Yeah, thank you. Just call me Alex. Alex is fine. Right. Yeah, it's for everything's sake. Yeah. So for me, social entrepreneurship, if you want to talk about incubation hubs and the related others, it's an addendum and then add on to the way especially universities have been teaching, right, and building capacity in the context of raising the next generational leaders. That is where I would pick it, because we realize that most of the African universities, of course, the dynamics are changing, but it more deals with the normal teaching, traditional teaching. Students just will even be taught entrepreneurship by the book, right, without much experiential pathways and without the add-ons that will lead to that critical thinking and shift in the mindset in developing that human resources that is needed for the continent. And so for me, that is the strongest add-on that is hub incubation pathway comes in. Luckily, I schooled in the Netherlands, live there, work there, right? It's because of these things that led me to come back to the continent, especially also to give back to my country, whereby we get our own students coming or our own colleagues from whichever country coming to Europe, the US, and the rest, and realize that there's a critical mass that is missing. And so being able to take them through certain pathway before they can move to add on their capacity and then give back to the continent was something that is missing. So for me, it is a critical mass that all universities in Africa as a continent need to add on. And I'm glad that there is a wave now that is moving within that direction. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a wave, and I'm glad that we're all on this call, and both in the attendees and also as the panelists are part of that wave. So that is great. That is great to know. I think both of you speak to the same a particular point here that is coming out strongly, and I think it leads very nicely to my second question as well. It's about, it looks like it's are we saying it's very hard to differentiate social enterprises from traditional enterprises? Because if we say all businesses are solving social problems, I'm bringing William in on that. We're then creating that conceptual, problem there. Otherwise, it's very hard to differentiate them. So when we now talk about incubation, how do we then bring that in? How do we then incubate? Which is my second question, which is what are those examples, of how social entrepreneurship, therefore, is currently being nurtured or supported within your respective universities, knowing this difficulty to distinguish between social enterprise and sort of traditional business if they're all solving problems. So who wants to go first? I think I can bring Alex. Do you want to come in first on that, or do you want William to start?
Well, I'm flexible. William, you can start. I can also start. It doesn't matter.
Okay, Alex, you can go first, then Williams, you come next.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. I am lucky, right, to have joined a university that calls itself an entrepreneurial university, right? I came back to Ghana fully the late 2017 to join the faculty. Then prior to that, I'd done 2.5 years between Wageningen, the Netherlands, and Ghana as part of my settling in. Now to your question, the entrepreneurship pathway that we see traditionally, it's not much about just making a social impact, social mission, a return on investment that is composite. Mostly you see them more on the traditional financial return on investment and probably a form of employability, right?
Yeah.
Not even as a career skills pathway. But then when it comes to the social entrepreneurship pathway that we're seeing, that technically, like you said, is a chicken and egg actually. You see that more and more of these entrepreneurial pathways. If I use UCC, University of Cape Coast, where I belong as an example, it's looking at creating impact, right? In addition to the employability and all those other things I just mentioned earlier. Again, it is about being intentional, right? So you see social entrepreneurship pathways, teaching, research, community services between faculty, students, and the communities, including champions of industry, in making a certain environmental impact, right? That's the pathway. Looking at innovative ways that combines the social, the cultural, right? Vis-a-vis the financials within. So I'll give myself as an example, like you said, in the University of Cape Coast, looking at my department specifically, the Department of Agriculture, Economics, and Extension, which I deal with the agribusiness unit, there is the intentional program, which is 15 credit points. Right, students would go to do needs assessment or market analytics across the environment, the communities they find themselves from the third year, the second semester, and then they come out to pitch a pre-pitch of what is it that they found out, right? And develop that kind of solution. Then for 6 months, these students are working on these either with communities or as businesses. And then after the 6 months, they are back to the classroom, whereby they also present their reports inclusive of a business plan. This is a typical example of what my university and my department is doing. Different departments are working in concert within the mandate and within the subject matter that they work in. Then there is a design thinking and innovation hub at the University of Cape Coast, which I happen to be also part of the foundation, whereby students from archaeology to zoology, whatever they've studied, they worked on, could come in and also ID it and work within that part. So this is some of the examples that is moving on. So in my department, my student in their final year would have gotten 15 credits, right? Which mostly the traditional universities will not have done it that way. You work on your project work, you get your 3 credits and go away. All right, just the wave that is moving there. The School of Business is doing its own thing. And at the same time, there's a synergy across. So we have students that are the Design Thinking and Innovation Hub, term D Hub. I'm going to use the D Hub more than the long term, whereby you get students with different backgrounds coming together to solve societal problems by creating businesses out of it. Right. So this is just an example. Because of time, I will hand over back to you and William, and maybe if there's time, we can share other best practices and other related part. Thank you.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I'll just let you follow on there, William. Just follow on from that.
Right. Yeah. So Alex has just given a very good background there, and I'll just write on that as well. to say that this, I've said this statement that most of African businesses actually solve a social problem. However, what Alex has said there is that being intentional, right? Intentionality comes in, and businesses follow the money, and that's where for profit, they will look at the money, they want to follow the money, they want to grow the money, meaning that their bottom line is return on investment. However, for social enterprises, and what we increasingly see is someone wants to get a problem solved, and that's the bottom line. They want to see an impact to eliminate or to reduce or to do something that is going to solve a problem, and that is what drives them. They become very intentional. They're looking at that impact they create, and of course, the money is an add-on to what they're trying to do. To talk a bit about our context, I draw a lot of similarities, and I worked a bit with Aseshi University in Ghana, where Alex is as well, and UCC comes in a lot. There was a very good collaboration and working relationship with the Aseshi University, which of course has a D lab as well, where design thinking is integrated in the programs right from the start. So we started talking about with entrepreneur students quite early on to look at. I remember I used to do a 2-week for new students who are coming in called Creative Actions for African Development, and we looked at African problems right from the word go, and that's why I say we're right from the word go. They were looking at what are the problems, doing research, presenting, and coming up with ideas. And I remember picking up a student who picked up an idea doing digital literacy in neighboring school around Berikuso, which was quite an output out of that. Speaking specifically to where I am now, currently in Strathmore University, I think primarily the Strathmore Business School has been, it's one of the best in regards to partnerships with the corporate side. But of course, increasingly, we've seen a lot of work around social enterprises. We have a project that is looking at transforming social ministries to social enterprises, which is called the Sister Blended Value Project. So interestingly, this is one that works with the Catholic sisters, and we know Catholic Church is one of the biggest, I think second to governments in terms of ownership and support within the health sector, the education sector, the agri sector, and all that. So they do quite a lot of work with communities, and theirs was primarily based on their charisms. So the nuns, the Catholic sisters, do a lot of work. However, of course, with the changes with the COVID, and they relied a lot on funding. And there was a decision made now to try and rethink about how they do their work and not just rely on funding, and thinking about now how they can transform their work, which is their healthcare, hospitals they were running, schools, to more thinking about social enterprise projects. And we started doing the second phase. First phase was done by Mila, which was remote, but we did the second phase, where there was an aspect of capacity building, actually training them to understand what is the nature of a social enterprise. So what does it mean when you say one of the biggest challenge was to try and get Catholic sisters to think about economic value, right? Creating a profit to run the enterprise. However, we are in the 4th year now, and I can tell that this project, which has been in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Zambia in the second phase. Now we have Malawi. Where you can see the transformation that these businesses have, right? So one of them was capacity building, that mindset to bring them to understand what is a social enterprise and how do you operate as a social entrepreneurship. We've written quite a bit of research around the same. One of them being actually, they're very interesting because they also have a faith aspect into it, right? So the charism they carry, which is, we know social mission, we talk about social mission. Beyond that, there's also the charism, their core calling as a provocation, as we say, for the Catholic sisters. So second bit of it has been incubation around creating a financing model. So remember also, we have to also bring in a bit of funding capital to spur some of this creation. Some of them had new ideas, some of them had ideas they wanted to grow, some of them had ideas they wanted to scale. So they were divided into 3 different categories so that to be able to support them at where they are. Those which came up with new ideas, they were given a bit of catalyst capital to help them. And we've seen some of them raising to the tune of $1 million as well through that aspect of trying to make them understand. Then, of course, we have introduced also business. They had a lot of coaches to work with them as well, because again, it takes a while for them to transform their mindset, for them to build, to think. So they were given coaches to work through the process, not just the capacity building and funding. Also had a coach, and some of our colleagues, staff have gone into that. Now, in the I teach social entrepreneurship, and one of the key things that also I've done is to try and get students to go out to the community, not solve their own problems in class, but to solve the community's problems, right? And we've put the aspect of social problems very, very well integrated in the program in such a way that we've seen the outcome of what students come back with through that experience is something that they come up with ideas that are going to solve some of the societal issues. We have an incubation center, which of course allows students also who have an idea. We don't discriminate whether it's a for-profit and social to be there. So we've seen very good ideas with students who developed Zero Bionics, who developed an interactive way to communicate with the deaf through the experiences and supported and nurtured through the incubation. But also we have what we call the Ideas Festival that allows students with ideas and to come up and pitch to get some grants. And that's an yearly program across the university. So those are some of the examples I would give, which are trying to incubate, bring ideas in social entrepreneurship and have students to really take a step forward. And let me say this, also integrated in our programs, the students have to take up a social, we call it service-based learning, right? So they have to go and actually embed themselves within a community to give their hours. And this actually transforms them to think it's not just about business. I can also build on ideas and create solutions for the kind of problems I see within the community. Thank you. I'll stop there.
No, thank you. That is very interesting. I think what is also coming out from both of what you both are speaking to is this idea of embedding the students in the community where they're trying to solve, where they could find a problem to solve and sort of to contextualize their problem and also their solution to that community. And I think that is very, very interesting. And of course, we know how important that is. Otherwise, you are likely to, you run the risk of developing solutions that are not, adaptable or adoptable or even applicable or even appealing to that particular community or to your target audience. So thank you for sharing that. But I think, okay, let's start. Since we have a lot of academics on the call as well, there might be, that will also be, some of them might be running the incubation centers already or incubation center in their universities, or some might be looking to start one. What would you share? And we are quite time conscious, so please, if we can keep our responses also a little bit more concise, so that we're able to cover most important questions that we have today. So what would you say are the biggest institutional and contextual challenges that you've seen, that is probably hindering effective incubation of social entrepreneurship on the continent in your universities? Give us some examples from your universities. What are those institutional or contextual? What challenges are you seeing? So let me start with you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. Like on a lighter note, before I answer the question, University of Cape Coast mentored Ashesi University to get its national charter. But then, interestingly, University of Cape Coast rely more on in terms of logistics and financials and linkages with from Ashesi than the bigger mentor. Yeah. I'm saying this in the context of trying to answer your question. As a public established university, the access to resources, logistics, right, becomes not like Ashesi University, because the budgetary lines, it has to be, you are coming in fresh. You have seniors and people who really need to understand the context, the construct of the add-on. compared to an actual university that has an entrepreneurial innovative start right from the word go. Right. So that's a basic major challenge that we face. The other one is attracting people like us. I was in the Netherlands. I've been trained out in the world. I'm prone to working at places I get high income. And I say I'm coming back to Ghana. Originally, I wanted to spend only 5 years. I'm 8 years now, just about starting my sabbatical. You look at the huge demotivation in terms of having the logistics, the infrastructure, right? And even sometimes the supporting background to go in to do it. If you're really not a mission-oriented person, trust you me, you cannot do it. So it's the biggest major challenge if you come to the public sector, all right, especially the public universities, and using the University of Ghana, Cape Coast as an example. Like I said, I'm lucky at least the university had a new mission looking at becoming an entrepreneurial university. So my university gives space, right? It tries to give you as much as possible a piece of the institutional cake for you to really run, but it's hopefully inadequate. So we're looking at the human resource itself. You're looking at the structural resources itself. We're also looking at another challenge of getting the buy-in from the vast majority. It is a very big problem. There's still people who do not believe that entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and related others is apt and is needed for the universities. They are still stuck to the traditional science-based things that unfortunately ends in the shelves. All right. So you coming out with that pathway, it's something that you need to do like 3-4 times extra work to get into. All right. So these are the major things. Again, we have students that are used to the traditional mode of teaching, all right, coming to the university, and then instantly they are hit with this kind of things that instantly they have to change their mindset. They are like 10 years in school, used to a certain way of life. And that is it. I have students who tell me, until it took us a long time. So you need to do that extra part. So on the part of the very critical resource, human resource, we want to build in, there is that challenge in there. And then come to faculty, there's that challenge there. Then the real institutional bureaucracy is also there, right? And then the ultimate that we normally talk about, the financial flow. Interestingly, funders would like to invest and support HSC than the University of Cape Coast. I'm glad William is here. It's obvious, all right? Because HSC is a brand in a way, right, that is known for these. You will not get it for the University of Cape Coast. We're coming up. And so it takes also those of us connected to be able to link and feel and move into that. And it's also a bit of sacrificial. So these are some of the challenges. Because of time, I'll hand over back to you and William. If there is time, maybe I'll add the also. Thank you.
Yes, William, I believe, you probably would echo the same thing that Alex is saying there, but if you have one or two more, or maybe even completely different set of challenges that you want to add to that, it would be good for you to highlight that.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much. And yes, riding on what Alex said. So again, we seem to share similar shoes with having been away for a bit of time, experiencing something different and realizing that we need to come here and do something different. And lived in the UK almost a decade and came back with a mission. I would say that if you look at my website, I am driven by a mission. And I said, I need to do this, despite the fact that many people ask why, right? The question of why? And it takes more, someone who's willing to go beyond the usual, business as usual, to deliver this change. I would also say this leadership is critical within our institutions. And I would say Aseshi draws a bit of parallel with Strathmore University. We are a non-profit university, private. And at the top of leadership is Dr. Vincent Ogutu, who leads by example. So if you hear him speak about his social aspect to ventures and all that, it's leadership by example, right? So one of the key things, which I see a lot of it missing in most of our institutions. Secondly, for me, and someone has noted that on the chart, is a good example of a curriculum that is developed to inspire or bring out some of this, entrepreneurial mindset. I would say entrepreneurial mindset covering both, because I've written something. There's a book chapter that we've looked at Africa education and particularly entrepreneurial education. And what affects us most is that traditionally we teach the same thing. A lecturer comes, is the scribe in the altar, and boom, gives information. You don't allow students to develop in that way. So my practice of entrepreneurship within the class, even for entrepreneurial classes for business, I normally take this. I believe there is teaching about it, and that's where we need to start, teaching about entrepreneurship. So we need to, nowadays it's too obvious that entrepreneurship is alternative to getting a job. So that's at least a societal acceptance is there. Previously used to be you either go to become an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, or work for the government. So there was no option of working. You were seen actually as an outlier when you said, I'm doing business, right? So at least the society has accepted that. And we found that at some point in some study that there's actually parents are now okay, but still there are parents who would say you're doing business, ask, what is it that you do, right? We don't see you driving in a government car or, wearing a suit to go to court and all that kind of thing. That's teaching about it, right? So we need to make students understand what is it that they are getting themselves. Then the other thing is teaching for entrepreneurship, which again is quite critical for me. And now is where you get students to do things, to try out, to experiment, experiential learning about entrepreneurship. And you have to get them out of the class. You have to make them to try, right? To do some things and not just allowing them to go and read notes and just come back to you. Then there's teaching through entrepreneurship. And that's where the incubation comes in now, right? So for me, the stepwise 3 steps, teaching about entrepreneurship, design a curriculum that teaches for entrepreneurship. And then lastly is through entrepreneurship, meaning that now they have a business. We have what we call the entrepreneurial practical, where students are allowed to work for their ideas as an internship, okay? So they're given resources at incubation and they're allowed actually to deliver their project as before they graduate. So you're telling them actually you can start your project and we'll support you, give you the resources and space for you to do that. You don't have to go and seek a job, right? For placement and for internship for you to graduate. So they have that room for them to actually do their businesses. And for me, that is very transformative when you see someone taking that step, because again, you're telling them you're learning through doing it. And that's the most, our curriculum doesn't get students there. And that's why we don't really get students to do it. And when they go out there, again, it's a lot of trial and error. They have to do it anyway for them who have at least developed that mindset. But I think a curriculum that is fit for purpose is quite critical for me, with the right resources and support and leadership within the institution. Thank you.
Right. No, thank you. That is very interesting. And yes, thanks both for that response. And I think I completely agree with these these institutional challenges. I think they are the common one, and the one that kind of stood out the most for me is the buy-in that is needed, both on the side of the institution, but also on the side of the students themselves, in terms of the mental shift that is needed. And I think, well, we could talk the whole session and even for a whole day on that. Because it's also connected to this idea of what even is a social enterprise as well. Like even when we are still having, definitional debates and arguments on what it means, already we create problems for even being able to understand or conceptualize this idea itself, or even see it happen in practice. So it's something that we can definitely talk for the whole day, but we wouldn't be doing that today. I want to bring someone in from the attendees, from the participants. Let's make this a little bit more interactive, and if possible, it would be good if it can be a female. I'm not being biased here, but I just thought since we have 2 males on the panel, it would be great to hear from a female participant. Please, if you are in the room, and if you would like to maybe ask a question to our panelists today, or even maybe share your views on how you are incubating social entrepreneurship in your university, maybe very briefly. We would love to do that. Anybody? Okay, we have. Okay, Dr. Jonas, please, can you come in, please? Well, Dr. Jonas, we said female, but okay. let's
Ademi, I'll put Regina Frank, Dr. Regina Frank on spot
do we
here.
have Dr. Regi? Okay. Okay.
But after Jonas, I think she's
Should we
here.
go? Dr. Jonas, should we go first to is it Dr. Regina or?
Yeah, I just want to react quickly to what the question you asked about,
Okay.
what is seen as a challenge, and Dr. Alex point out something. I want to add to what Dr. Alex say. For me, the incubation for social entrepreneurship in university is not yet a priority. That's a big problem. It's not a priority. It's something that maybe faculty that are passionate about are able to do. The biggest challenge is to have this culture within the university that embrace incubation for social entrepreneurship innovation as a core of what university is, what they do. Okay, so that comes also with a challenge with the resources. When you don't prioritize something, you don't allocate resources. So those are major challenges. That incubation within the university they really face on the continent. I just want those two elements. So if the real shift is to create a culture of of incubation within the university. So I just want to add.
Thank you very much for letting us know that priority. Yes, of course. I think it's not just only in the universities also, but even in our governments, right? It's a multi-level problem, and well, we are starting the conversation, so I believe we are shedding more lights on it, and this problem will soon start to ease off. So let's bring in. Did you say Dr. Regina or William? I'll let you.
Hello. The
Yes.
power of social media, right? Thank you,
Okay.
William. First of all, Dr. William Moretti, my dear former colleague from the UK. It's good to see you. Thanks for sharing the event or the invitation to the event today. I'm delighted to see you, to hear, and to meet so many people who are passionate about social entrepreneurship, as I am as well. I moved places as well, so we work together in Leicester in the UK, and now I'm at Liverpool University of Liverpool, and I will also be starting to teach social entrepreneurship. So I'm really super happy about it. Now, the question that I would have for you would just pure curiosity is to see how your students, whether they are more interested in developing for-profit enterprises or social enterprises, given the context and the lived experience that many students have, also in terms of sustainability issues and other issues. So how does that translate into the personal objectives and preferences of your students? And I'd like to hear from any of you.
Okay. Let's start with you, William, since you brought Dr. Regina here. So let's start with you. Very briefly as well, because of time. Okay.
Right. Yeah, just a quick one. I think as culture comes in, and also, of course, what they see out, interact with a lot, majority of the students think for profit. I'll say that. However, our context is different. I mean, of course, we define ourselves as an entrepreneurial university as well. But I would say our context is different because our students in their second year get exposed quite a lot of to service-based learning, which takes them out in the community and work in the community, in schools, underprivileged. We have not far from us as well, communities that we work with, students who come on board from the slums as well. And they get to see these problems quite early. We have a community of students who are coming from backgrounds that are well off sometimes with businesses background, and they see for profit. However, through my engagement, the unit I had, which I took them out, I've got 4 to 5 groups that went out, and one of the students actually came and said, "Thank you so much, because I didn't get to be exposed to this kind of environment." And that, for me, which we're talking about exposing them as early as possible, transforms the way they think about business. And I've seen students uptake. I'm working with 4 or 5 of them that really said, we have to take this idea and see it to fruition, because now they've seen something that they can be very intentional about. to change. And this class is multidisciplinary accounting, HR students, marketing students, who would think traditionally for profit. So, I mean, of course, until we expose them, then their mindsets change. The same thing I do with my MBA students who come from a very purely background business for profit. They really needs to be exposed. And until they are, they would just see as these other sectors non-profit, which is quite common to them, and not really actually the social aspect of it, social enterprise aspect of it. Yeah. So generally, I would say most of them for profit, but when they get exposed as early as possible, then they change. They see the alternative, and they really want to make a difference. Being generation Gen Z, I teach a lot of Gen Zs. I have seen them actually, and this is an experiment I did with talking about the philosophies, capitalism, socialism. Most of them tend to be socialist, and they would buy into this idea of trying to make the world better for other people and themselves as well.
Interesting. Do you have anything to add to that, Dr.
Yeah,
Alex?
so because of time, Regina, I just put in a link on LinkedIn on my immediate past teaching and research assistant. And I'm just showing this because that's her product with her team. It's a peanut butter packaged, right? And it's now FDA certified in Ghana. The motive was not just for profit, but also for impact, all right? At the same time, being intentional on a certain target that would like this as a snack. So from a project work through to going through incubation process by the Cosmos Innovation Center, Agri-Tech Challenge, this is a product that has come out of it. Because of time, I will not be able to share much. So my answer to you is it depends, right? And it's a lot that is going around the ecosystem, whereby students initially thought of just financial profit, but now looking at social return on investment, environmental, and the related others. So it cuts across. My agribusiness students line, the programs, most of them will not just go for profit, they'll go for some social. My extension, agriculture extension, community development student would like to go for more rural related impact and still having certain entrepreneurial pathway. Somebody in medicine combining with somebody with chemistry, with accounting is looking at not just finance, but also being able to change some of the things that's coming out of the lab, right? Like organic insecticides, right? To that. Because of time, I'll not be able to, but if you follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, you see a lot of things that is going on. Or if you follow the Design Thinking and Innovation app, you see a lot of things that we're doing. So there's a little to add to what William talked about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you so
Regina?
much. Thank you so much for that. That mirrors a little bit the experience that I've got here. You've got two types of students: the ones who have been exposed to hardship, or have at least faced and thought about more deeply about grand challenges, and those, well, with lived experiences, and those who are still quite naive and live in their own bubble. And we as educators have got two roles to play. One is giving the confidence to those who might not even think of themselves as entrepreneurs, despite hustling all their life, right? And empowering them and bringing out what they have got and make them even better. And then from finally undergrads to MBA students, yes, also shaking their life a little bit up and exposing them to other areas and seeing that and making them think and reflect about where even in their vicinities they've got alcoholics or ex-prisoners. They might not admit it, but each of them have got an issue in their extended vicinity where they can use their skills to actually make a difference. And I like that, to do that. And William, although you are like a few thousand kilometers away, I've been following Kenya almost on a daily basis. You might be happy to see thanks to
No,
YouTube
no,
and
but
social media. So
yes, yeah. I mean, thank you very much. It's good to hear a lady, I mean, a woman's voice also to these conversations. I mean, I happen to also do a bit of research, like I said from my introduction. Maybe I didn't really say. What I found in my research when I mean, a couple of years ago, is that these guys are also sometimes self-identified social entrepreneurs. I just wanted to add that as well, self-identified. Okay, and we also have to understand some of the structural complexity that makes these organizations to choose whether for-profit or non-profit, which again is a whole nother debate, because when you have legal forms that kind of forces them down to extremes, they usually do not have a choice sometimes to just say, well, this looks like I'm a charity, so they stay with charity, whereas they are also running some kind of side business on the side as well, or I'll go for-profit and register as a business. So sometimes the structural, and I like that sometimes, because I think if we try to change policy, which is something that we should definitely try to do, but if we try and stay there, we will not even be able to capture some of these innovative activities we're seeing on the continent at all, because we'll spend years trying to school policymakers why they should create these hybrid legal forms, which we all know on this call will be challenging at the moment, considering the institutional weakness of our respective countries, in terms of how do you actually manage that and all of that. So I think time will not allow us to really go into all of this in details, but I'm really glad that at least we've started to have those conversations. But it's good to be aware of the structural complexity that sometimes forces these two extremes. But thank you to our panelists. Okay, let's start bringing this session to sort of like some sort of close, like with some final questions, if you allow me. And let's again try to be conscious of time. So I would bring you, since I think, okay, I'll bring William, I'll bring you in first, because I think we just heard from Alex there. Oh, I think we'll bring William first. So how can we now ensure, going by what, you were sharing earlier, when we're talking about institutional challenges and you were sharing from what you're seeing there at Strathmore, how can we ensure incubation models are then contextually relevant, considering the African realities, the values, and also our resource constrained, if you like, environments, as you've highlighted, rather than us sometimes wanting to replicate what we are seeing working elsewhere, like in the West, for example. How can we make sure that we start to, ensure incubation models in our continent are contextually relevant? What should we start to do?
Good. That's a very fantastic question to reflect on, and I think Alex as well would build on that. So my take is this: as academics and as people in the university sector, we have no choice. As much as we want to see it, we must act as entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs don't start with resources; they start with ideas. And then they start bootstrapping and trying to build something. That's what we started with Sunsep, right? So we have to be very intentional as well as academics. We don't expect, again, we don't expect someone to give us manna from heaven. We have to start with what we have. And we need to start from where we are by taking up the challenge and investing the time to build ideas that work. Understanding our context as well, we need to also operate with the mindset that we cannot get everything we need to start with. So we need to start with that absence of some resources and work with it, right? So for me, that is what my inspiration will be, and what has been, is that I don't wait for resources to come. I start with what I have. And we need to start with, students are resources themselves, right? So I've had a student who went through the class last semester, and now is going to pitch for a 5 million grant to implement the idea. You see, like, students are resources. Give them the ideas, support the ideas. They bring the resources as well. So that's what I want to see, because I think we're in a context that we have also to inspire a lot of them to come out and, bricolage. We read about these things, effectuation, bricolage, bootstrapping, but how do we take action to make them work? So be the seed, the person who plants the seed in the student's mind. And I can tell you, they will open up to the space and they will find their own ways to bringing up the resources. That's to address the resource challenge. Now, with institutional leadership, I think as much as it takes time, we need also to be advocates, and advocates in terms of advocating for some of these things. If we keep quiet, and advocacy is that we do the best things that Alex has shown, right? Do it and show it to them, put it in their eyes, right? Once they start seeing actually there's something that can transform, then you get their ear, and then you can also advocate for some resources for that sake. So I'll stop there and allow Alex maybe to add some of the ideas that they're pulling together from that side. UCC, thank you.
Right.
Thank
Alex, you can add to that, but can you also then speak to this question, while as you're answering that, what are those actions that, for example, universities, policymakers, let's include policymakers, please, and also educators, what do we need to sort of prioritize to make this, a sustainable part of our educational system in Africa? So if you can add that, that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. So I'll brought them together, building on the things that William talked about. So one thing that needs to be done is not just put visions and missions on your websites. Leadership should talk the word, right? Don't use just in there, because these days it's like fashion. Almost every university now wants to get to become entrepreneur or deal with social entrepreneurship and the rest. You have nice visions and mission statements, but then leadership is something that it's almost do not understand, that kind of thing. So like William said, I just build on that pathway. Secondly, the next thing to do is we ourselves within the ecosystem should sacrifice beyond just being faculty and take up leadership positions. So let's publish, let's advocate, and let's take the positions themselves, because that's what I'm beginning to realize. If we're not there, we've sacrificed enough already. So if we're not there, definitely just going to get truncated. So that's one line that you need to. The third thing that, in addition to the composite question answered, is can we share resources? Can we work on the blended and virtual, blended, face-to-face related? Because, for instance, the University of Cape Coast are not endowed with most of these resources as compared to Strathmore or Ashesi, right? Can we share? But then that also means that can we get data, right? Full data as to the nuances, the challenges, the variations, and the similarity, the synergies. And then I can know that, okay, William is teaching within this pathway. This is what I can get within some kind of, not just an open access, but shared Ubuntu, strategy to help us. So the universities that are not resourced will be able to come into that pathway. The other thing that I also see as another step, critical step that we need to take, is what we are doing now. Can we start blowing our horns? Can we really share the success stories? Can we share the challenges and the innovative ways we are coming out of it? For instance, we start with nothing, and then we can make the case. So the video of Angelina is talking about her pathway as a student. Can we begin to get these flicks and the others moving out? And then the next part that I see to be very critical is let's contextualize them, because the challenges that we bring in innovation pathway probably in the Western province in Kenya might not be the same in the Western region of Ghana. All right, but mostly when funders want to come in, they think, okay, Kenya went very well, so I only fund this kind of line of innovations within the, not just the social entrepreneurship space, but innovating space. Can we now begin to localize but still contextualize them in that way? I'm saying this because colleagues in Eastern and Southern Africa will get more funding to advance most of these social entrepreneurship pathways than me in Ghana. It's a fact. It's a fact. I don't have to lie about it. All right. So that's some of the ways also that I think we have to, in becoming intentional, funders, supporters, ecosystem players, industries need to. And then the thing that I would add also, let industry come out with the challenges to the schools, and then let us ideate and work through together, because then through that, it becomes relevant, rather than colleagues are going to just teach and think what is it that is relevant to them is what is for societal good. But probably the dynamics might change in a certain community or a certain industry or a certain ecosystem. So that's another pathway that I think we need to be intentional about, and then together we can work it. And I really salute Dr. Jonas, Debbie, all of us in here. I thank Komi and Co for initiating the Debbie Brooke and Co. It is one of the lines that I think we must push ahead more. because then together we're making the visibility more. And then our products would also show more, and then we can be able to move in there. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Oh, wow. Great. Thank you. Those are very, a very interesting answer. And I think a lot of us have learned a lot today about how do we go about incubating social entrepreneurship in our respective universities. And one that is contextually relevant to our respective community, country, and also continent. Thank you so much. I mean, there are so many points that has been that we've actually highlighted. We've talked about some of the. What should we even be incubating? You've given examples about that, and also we've talked about some of the institutional challenges that we are seeing in our respective universities. We've talked about some of the case studies that we're also seeing. We also heard there from Regina asking an interesting question about what are the patterns that we are seeing on the continent, more for profit or more on the charity side. And then there we just finish up with a very interesting ideas there about how do we then sort of make this contextually relevant. What should educators be doing? What should policymakers be doing? What should every one of us here in the room be doing? And so thank you so much. So much, like I said, we could say. We could unpack this. It could be a whole day session. There are different, parts that you've spoken to there that I want to say, oh no, but I think of time, so I try to hold myself back. But it's very, very interesting. Thank you so much to, William. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for coming to share. We really, really appreciate you today. And thanks to all of you in the room. I can see I've not had time to look at the chat, but you've been talking in the chat and sharing ideas and links and all that. So thank you for making this session also very, very interactive. All right, great. Okay, well, Catalyst now has a survey that they would like you to complete. It should take maybe 1 or 2 minutes. I'm not sure, Komi, if you want to say something about it, or should I go? Okay, well, yeah, there you go. It just popped out. So please.
Adeyemi and Alex, thanks everyone for your joining. So please spend just 1 or 2 minutes. Tell us how you were satisfied about this events so that we can improve future events. Hello everyone, I'm Kumi, and I'm coordinator of currently 6 regional academic hubs orchestrated by Catalyst Now. And Catalyst Now academic hubs are regional community that we connect researcher, educator, practitioners, and social innovator together toward the sustainable development goals. And we aim to, and members of Catalyst academic hubs, that you can see, we can share best practice, innovative pedagogy, or collaborate on research and co-create learning events, such like the event we're doing today. So to participate or promote, you can feel free to scan this QR code or contact me. Cindy and our team will drop all the links for you in the chats. And we would like to thank our valued African academic partners, Akuse, ASU, and ANSES, for your collaboration and great spirit. I will pass it to Dr. Jonas and Dr. Adeyemi for your brief introduction of our academic partners. So go ahead, Jonas.
Thank you. Thank you, Komi. Concerning the annual conference on social entrepreneurship, which is a gathering that started in 2017, basically with the idea of creating a space for the social entrepreneur to tell their story and to accelerate social entrepreneurship in Africa. Then basically that is what this conference is about. This year, we had the 8th edition. So the real focus on this year is on social economy. We know how social economy is becoming a very important pillar in sustainable, creating a sustainable continent. So that's what the conversation was about this year. It was a fantastic event, bringing different actors from different parts of the continent and then beyond. We had around over 450 delegates, converging to share their story, build connection, basically to accelerate social entrepreneurship. And so now we are looking forward to the next, the next event, which will happen next year in around November in Addis Ababa. It's going to be organized by the Social Enterprise Ethiopia. So I think basically that's about Annual African Conference on Social Entrepreneurship.
Right. I'm
Thank
just
you.
going to
Yeah.
follow on after that. Great to hear about the next ACOSE I'm going to be holding. That's exciting. Right. So, I mean, I introduced the ASU, which is the African Social Enterprise Workshop earlier, and I also talked about this upcoming summit. So first with ASU, we have some upcoming programs that you should look out for. It's quite a lot. I won't try to read all of them. So if you follow us on social media, you probably would have started to see some of this being put out there. So there is our enterprise creation for nonprofit program that we run, which should be, I think, happening end of October or start of November. But we also have the External Support Mastery, which is the ESM program, which is more focused on collaborations and how to build partnerships and build partnerships for sustainability and collaborations for sustainability as well. So you should try to also pay attention to our website for information on that. We have so both of these sessions will be expert-led or with practical hands-on, and there is also a certificate that we normally give out at the end of this program. I think we have already recruited, if not fully for that program, but I think there should be maybe about 4 or 5 slots. So if you're on the call, if you're an academic or you're not an academic, but you're interested in this program, any of this program, there is still a few more slots, and then you can try to sign up for those slots. Then we also have the Sustaining Impact Summit 7th edition that we held this year, where we look at this idea of African resourcefulness. It was a very successful event. We had over 600 registrants. It was, interesting on the day, packed out on the day. We had master classes across 8 different locations. It was a very successful event this year. The video to that summit, I'm happy to announce that we are almost done editing it, because usually when the session is done, we try to add our logo and everything to the start and finish, and just make sure the whole thing flows and we are not really wasting your time watching delays and all that. So the editing is almost done, and we should be releasing the video this October. So watch out, it's almost done. If you're on our social media again, if you're not, I think our social media should be in the chat now. I think I've got my team member doing that at the moment. So please do follow us on there so that you can be aware, you can be notified rather, when these videos are released. I've watched the draft version of them, and they're looking really good. So watch out for that. We have this video editing training that we are putting together as well. I think this is going to be open to people to also be able to sign up into, but I think it also has like almost full that training, but it's for video editing. So if you're interested in any video editing kind of skill set, maybe graphic designs, how to edit a video and put images and all that, that's training is also happening. There are 3 sessions, so 6th, 13th, and the 3rd date will be announced also on our social media. So a couple of trainings we do at ASU, just to, like I said, our focus is on sustaining impact. So anything that would enable organizations to be able to sustain their impact, more focused on entrepreneurial approaches, I should say, so that we are less dependent on external donors or grants. So if anything that could aid that, we try to do within ASU, which is also what our, the Sustaining Impact Summit is a vehicle for as well. So yes, please do check us out on social media, and do check our website out as well. Thank you to everyone. Komi,
yes, actually, okay. We have another academic, but unfortunately, no member from Access can join today. So it's an academic network, so connecting social entrepreneurs. I believe that Cindy already dropped the link to our 3 partners, and also we'd like to save the date for this AMS conference in the Netherlands, I believe, in November. And also, if you would like to submit high quality, not purely academic, but any article toward the Ignite, system change, feel free to submit to Meru in our team. Our team will help you with translator into 5 languages: English, Arabic, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. And finally, thanks everyone. Thanks our valued speaker for your participation. And let's embrace Ubuntu spirit. I am because we are. And before we leave, as the true spirit of Catalyst, can you please unmute yourself and say thank you in your native language?
Obrigada.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Como.
Ciao.